Lily, please help me with the Samsung. Hi guys, welcome. No one's here yet. Oh, there's someone. Hi. So sorry. I'm exactly Tohaki ship Jubun late, 60 minutes late. I apologize for that. Aside from trying to get my my camera, my lighting good, I had to have dinner, so I'm a bit late. Although I didn't have it fully yet. Hi Deborah, good evening. How are you? I'm 60 minutes late, so sorry. 1 minute. Hello Ezekiel. Hi. Really glad you guys joined me. We have 3 persons here. So great, so we can start. So this life is pretty much self-explanatory. The title, but from the title alone, I want to show you, because I get this question a whole lot. Come on, a whole lot. So this is what we're gonna do. Yes, this level is better. Oh my god, is this safe? No, this is not safe. Okay, I think we're just gonna do this. So, how can one learn a language by themselves, or self-study, or hi Favor, welcome. Basically to learn a new language online. Like if you were just watching this video right now and you just want to start learning a new language right now, how do you do it alone without having to pay someone to teach you? So now, before I begin, let me just say this real quick. Teaching someone or having someone coach you like a guide and all of that is great. It can shoot you farther, faster, if you get what I mean. And of course, you know, I have classes, Korean classes, Spanish classes, Chinese, German, and French classes, all for beginner level up to intermediate level. So you can do that. Or if you feel like, okay, you want to learn by yourself, or juntas, or solo, like the Spanish people would say, then this video is for you. So hi Polymath, welcome. Please, you guys, help me like and share this video to reach more people. So this is what the first thing you're gonna do. Oh damn, I don't want to have to get up. Just imagine this is a book, because you have to get this first. At least I did. Everything I'm going to be telling you are tips and steps that I did, and so far I can say it worked for me, because not only did I really not pay anyone to teach me, the only classes I had were like the kind of classes I'm going to show you how you can get on. So imagine you got a book, and this is a new 20 leaves, 40 leaves, whatever leaf book you got specifically for studying this particular language that you're starting. So you wanna first of all ask yourself, okay, where do I go from here? So now this depends on the language. If it is if it's an English like language, there's a word for them. I feel so ashamed of myself as a polyglot. I should know the word. The word is failing me right now. But like languages that are like English, languages that use like alphabets like English. Yeah, I'm talking languages like Spanish, French, German, Portuguese, those kind of languages that use literal this thing like English. I'm not talking of Russian and the rest, where it might be English alphabets, but you know the way it's written is weird. I'm not talking about those kind of languages. I'm talking about simple, plain languages that, I mean, it's, even if you don't speak the language, it's easy to read the words. Languages like Spanish, French, etc. So if it's languages like that, I will just tell you to give yourself like a week on learning the alphabets. I mean, you could even do it in an hour. I mean, you really don't need to know like the names of the alphabets, right? You could do that in an hour and move on. But for languages that have characters or strokes, languages like Korean, like Chinese, languages like the Hebrew, I think, Northern languages where it looks like a drawing, basically. It's not English alphabet. Those kind of languages, you want to start learning to write how to learning to write these characters. Those characters are important because this language is not English, right? So if you try to skip past that and just move further, it might affect you. Now this is where language teachers or language coaches would tell you, oh, if you're learning Korean language, don't get comfortable with romanization. What that means is, if you're learning Korean and sorry, is there a pen there? If you're learning Korean and you wanna volume please, and you wanna write hold on, let me get my thought train back. So let's say you're learning Korean, and if I wrote something in Korean characters, you can't read it, but you know you can read it, but you have to try to get the romanization, or I have to put the romanization. That's the kind of level I'm talking about. So if you're on that level, you have to make sure you're on your Korean reading or your Chinese reading is so good that you can read. Now the Chinese is a bit different, so we're gonna pause on that. But I'm talking about Korean language now. So you have to make sure, like, the first step, and now this can take you a week, 2 weeks. It took me months, but that was because I didn't know what I was doing. But in a week you should be able to get it, especially if you study every day, which we'll come into. So you should be able, as a beginner, you should be able to read characters. I don't know what you want to do. Most people say, oh, they're learning characters, but for months they still can't read romanization. Romanization is just the language written in English way, exactly. So you have to make sure that if you saw something in Korean characters, give or take 5 seconds, like you've seen a word, give or take 5 seconds to be able to read that word. That's what you should aim for. That's what you should aim for. Leave romanizations. As a beginner, you need romanizations and you need it, but to progress, you have to drop them aside. And what that means is, immediately you see a Korean word, even if you don't know what it means, you should be able to pronounce it. That's what I mean. So now we've left alphabets, we've left characters. Let's move on. So when you have your book and you've studied the first topic, which is this is also going to act as a study guide for most of you learning a language, because this is the sequence, foundation, building up of how I think you should learn this language. So you're done with the first chapter. What is next? Okay, next, now you want to start understanding the basics. Apart from learning characters and alphabets, one other basic that you should definitely strive for is learning articles. Do you think it's better to write first or learn to read first? I think the both should come together. I don't think it depends, my dear polymath planet. It depends on why you're learning this language. Okay, if you're learning it for speaking, for communication wise, you're just learning it. Of course, you can just be okay with being able to read. I mean, it's not like you're walking around with books and stuff like me. But for someone who is learning it for a more like, I would say I learned it majorly just learning it. I mean, even when learning it, I had books and all that I was writing. So I think even while I was learning it, I was also learning to write. So here is the thing. As you're learning, except maybe you're learning with a cellular device, like a mobile device. But the way I studied it, I studied like actual studying. Like I said, I literally have a book here for illustration. So there is no way I can learn if I'm studying like this. There's no way I can just learn to read without writing. And immediately I tried to write, because Korean characters are the most easy things compared to Chinese, I must say. So like, I think reading and writing come hand in hand. And if you can, because once you've known how to write it, it's not like you might even need to write anything in Korean for months, like physical writing. But of course, when typing and whenever maybe for work or for writing or whatever, it's fine. But I feel like once you've learned to write it once, you don't unlearn it basically. So technically you're learning them at the same time. So yes, so the second topic now is basics, and I said articles. I said I don't want to say verbs yet, but what are articles now? I feel like for Korean language you don't have to bother about that. That happens with the Spanish language, the French, and other languages. Articles, very important. You should learn stuff like that. But for the Korean language now, I would liken it to counters. I would liken it to articles as well. So 을, 는, 이가, Korean has articles. Why didn't I? Why am I saying yes? Korean has articles, a whole lot of them. You should definitely learn that. So now let's move on to still on the basics now. The most important thing you can do for yourself to be able to grab a language faster is to learn verbs. And to learn verbs, I mean to learn how to conjugate verbs to all the tenses, but most importantly, the three main tenses: past, present, and future. So here is the thing. You're learning a language. You have no idea of this language. But you have no idea of this language, but you want to start speaking, right? I'm saying learn. Let's use Korean language now. Let's stick to one because I think most people here are here for Korean language. So you've learned the characters, you've learned the articles, which are very important. The articles also combined with numbers, also combined with what's that word? Counters, Korean counters. Articles, of course. I'm sure you also learn all. I'm gonna pinpoint other topics you should definitely think. So you're done with that now. I'm saying move straight to verbs. And for verbs, you have to obviously learn conjugation, past, present, future. And then what other and then you think, or by knowing, of course, what other tenses are important in the Korean language? Oh, progressive tense, present progressive. I'm talking about go isoyo because they use it a lot. It's like the ing of Korean language. So of course you have to join present progressive in that and all of that. There is a link I sent to my students that has about the link is a, let me see if I can find it. I will put it in the comments. The link, that website has, you just need to input a verb and it to show you all the tenses you can get on that verb, up to like 10 tenses, past tense. Like it does the maths for you basically, like it conjugates it and show you all the conjugations. You just need to input the verb. So you need to learn verbs. So this is what you do. Since learning verb is going to be a progressive thing because you can't learn it all in one day, every day if you're learning this language, you have to tell yourself, okay, I'm going to learn 10 vocabularies today and I'm going to learn 10 new verbs. 10 vocabularies include, I'm going to learn how to say a slipper, a table, a curtain, a chair, a door, a wall. I'm going to learn 10 new vocabularies every day. Hold on to that. And I'm going to learn 10 new verbs every day. How to run, how to eat, to say I sleep, I fast, I cry, verbs, literally. So now here's the trick. Every day you know you're learning 10 vocabulary and 10 verbs. So you feel like basically have the verbs on lockdown, right? Now I want you to focus on this grammar. Grammar is what you should focus. So let's say you study 4 times in a week. Every day, whether you're studying that day or not, you know that you have to learn 10 new vocabularies and 10 new verbs. And when you come the next day, you have to ask yourself, what vocabularies and verbs did I learn yesterday, and what vocabularies and verbs am I learning today? So basically remind yourself of what you learned the last day. So while you're doing that every day, whenever you have an actual study time, I want you to get on YouTube and check for Korean grammar. Now that is what you should really focus on. Like that is what you should be more concerned about, because once you know verbs and you know Korean grammar, that is basically what you need to be able to speak. For other languages, it's the same as well. Once you know verbs and once you know grammar, it's basically it's basically easy to progress from there. Why? Because grammar, especially in the Korean language, is basically what helps you say what you want to say. Grammar also includes the SOV in Korean language, which is the subject, object, and verb. And what that means is it's basically telling you that if you want to say anything in Korean, you have to arrange it in the subject, object, and verb. So hear me out. Now, this subject, object, and verb I just said, that is a grammar rule, right? Now look, subject is definitely going to be in your vocabularies you're learning every day. Object is definitely going to be in your vocabulary you're learning every day, and the verbs at the end is also the verbs you learn every day. Do you get? So it's basically just like that, really. The arrangements, I mean, just learn your verbs and vocabularies every day, and I mean every day, and make sure the what you're learning today, you're accountable for that. Accountability is everything, and we'll get into that. Then once you're doing that, you're learning grammar, not just the SOV now. You're also learning other grammars that come with the specific language you're learning. A simple Google search would show you all these grammars I'm talking about. A simple YouTube search as well would show you all this as well. So un momento, por favor. A simple Google search of Korean language grammars, Korean language grammar, and there you have it. And you have lots and lots of guides. So I'm telling you that everything is online resources, basically a simple online search. So now you check the most simple Korean grammar you would learn is the SOV, like I just talked about. What else is there? You can move on from that. So now I'm gonna get into where you should learn from, what sites are used. Right now we're still talking about the progress. So what you should mainly focus on, my dear friend, is grammar and learning vocabularies, because this is what most people do. They struggle, and they learn Korean, right? But now for them to make a sentence, like they want to say, oh, I saw the fat man jumping over the fence yesterday. Oh, they know it, but they don't know the most important things, which is what? How to say fence, how to say one other word there that is like maybe the least thing, but then they get stuck. Why? That happens if you don't have enough vocabularies, which, to be honest, not everyone does. Even in the English language, I could say a word now, let's say aberration, you might not know what it means, so you don't have that vocabulary for English. So I'm saying you might, if we learn words every day in a new language, but basically try to learn as many, because since you're just starting this language, I'm using 10, you could go more than that, basically. So learn the basics, learn how to read and write first, then learn go to tasking yourself every day with the verbs and the vocabularies, then move on to grammar and learn different grammar, because grammar is where you get stuck. Grammar is where is a bit difficult, because grammar is where it's important, basically. So what else is encompassed in grammar for the Korean language? Of course, this is where you get to learn asking questions as well, how to say things in the negative. I'm talking about I like, I do not like, all those are grammar. So there are so many resources you could use. So here is I'm going to get into resources. Let me not skip. Hi Joy, welcome. So yeah, you're doing that and you're learning vocabularies. Now let's move on to what's next after that. What's next after that is making your own sentences. And making your own sentences has a slash to it, which is practice, and that's where I'm basically gonna stop. What is practice and what is making your own sentences? So you gotta take that SOV and take your grammar rules and take your knowledge on vocabularies and start making your sentences. Now you have SOV, pick a subject. Na. From learning vocabularies, you would know you would know the word na. Na. I mean, even if you search Korean vocabularies right now, I'm pretty sure na is going to be one out of the 10 words that will first pop out. Because na means I. It means I. So, like, you want to say anything, I this, I that, I da 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 da, I, na, right? So, that is subject. What is next? An object. An object is going to be in your daily vocabulary test to yourself. Let's say today, one of the 10 vocabularies I tasked myself to learn is bull. Bull. So from knowing this from my vocabulary, my daily vocabulary task, I can say na. Mul. Mul now is the object of my sentence. So now I'm almost done making a full sentence, right? I'm almost done making a full sentence. From my vocabulary knowledge, I know the word na for I know the word mul for water. So now I just need a verb to make a full sentence. Now, let's say I don't even know any verbs, but I'm able to come up with that much of a sentence. I go to a translator and I check for the verb. Could be any verb now. Is it the verb to like? Is it the verb to need? I could say I need water. I like water. I hate water. I bought water in past tense, right? From your verb knowledge now, you would know how to conjugate to past tense. Basically, you would know how to conjugate to present tense. So here's the good and the most beautiful thing about the Korean language. In the Korean language, see the way I just said the words eat, na, mul, and I'm about to end it with a verb, and I would have a full sentence. It's just 3 words, but it's a full and very correct sentence. So let me just pick the very famous verb chowayo, to like. So chowayo, right? So na, mul, chowayo. I like water, literally. So in English, the sentence structure for the grammar is I like water. So SVO. The verb is in the middle. I, S, like, V, water, O. But for Korean, the verb comes last. So if thinking in Korean, like I teach my students, thinking in Korean there for I like water is I water like. I water like. So that's what I like to call thinking in Korean. Thinking in Korean again for I'm going to school. I'm going to school is I, school, go. Because the verb always got to be the last, right, for Korean language. So those are also what grammar rules. The verb always has to be the last. I'm going to school in English. When you translate it to Korean, it is 나는 학교에 가요. 나는 is I, na, from earlier. The word 학교, which you will probably learn from your vocabulary, means school. 나는 or 나. 학교에, there's an 에 there, which is a particle, which I said is one of the basics. Particles, articles. It's a place. It's a place particle. So like 학교에 is your object and a place particle. Then 가요, which is the verb to go in present tense. 나는 학교에 가요. So thinking in Korean for I'm going to school is I school go. Yeah, basically. So that is basically all you need to start speaking Korean, knowing how to make these. So when you know how to make this, you start expanding, you start learning adjectives, you start learning adverbs, how to say, oh, I go to school late, or oh, I like plenty water, the word plenty and all of that. Those are adjectives, adverbs, learn preposition, conjunctions, etc. So now let's move to some resources that I used. 잠시만요. how do I fit this? Okay, so we have the Korean grammar in use for beginning. So this textbook is very, very loaded. Basically, this textbook has Korean grammar in use beginner, Korean grammar in use intermediate, Korean grammar in use advanced. I've read all of them. I'm currently on the intermediate and advanced textbook. Download it. A simple Google search and you can download this. It comes in like 200 or 300 pages. You can use it as one of your study resources, and it has all of these things I'm saying from beginner topic down to up, right? What else is here? You can these are all textbooks, right? I can attest for the Korean grammar in use because I've used it, but I'm pretty sure I've read almost all, if not all of these here, because I'm just like a craze. Those time I was crazy for all of these kind of things. I have all of them downloaded. So now a simple Google search and you would come across this website. I use this website up till date. This is it on my system. It's on my system. So it's called How to Study Korean. This is an application and it is also a website. Very, very useful. Why? Because after every topic, especially for the app on your phone, there's accountability, which is also important, and we're talking about in a minute. So you can test yourself on what you've learned earlier. So this website has units. You can see from unit 0 to unit 7, and in each unit you can see there's a lot to do. Let's see for unit 6 that I'm currently at here. Do you get? So like there's a lot to do on this website. It should definitely get you busy. I don't want you to be a manga like I was. I don't know if that English is correct. When you move from this resource to that resource, you're not even done with this one and I'm here. I'm not even done with this one and I'm here. I did that a lot way back then, and I hope you don't, because it gets you confused. You try to stick with one resource and finish, so you can have a couple of resources at the same time, but just make sure you don't dump them and like just moving on to something else. Just try to always give yourself accountability. So let's talk about some healthy habits that would help you with this language journey. One, you have to be accountable to yourself, because you're not learning it for anyone else but for yourself. And so when you tell yourself you're studying and you actually study, you should be able to be accountable as to what you studied and try to use it. So now practice is one of the things I would leave you with, which I always try to leave people with in my advices, because it's okay. It's one thing to be able to know how to say na mul toil, right? But if you don't use it in a practice, not only would you even forget how to make that sentence, the major reason you learned how to make that sentence was to be able to use it in actual practice. So you can now, from learning further, you can now sit and just ask yourself a question. Maybe, do you like water? From your grammar classes or from your grammar studying, you'll be able to know how to ask questions, right? So you can just ask yourself, do you like water? Then you can respond to yourself. So you have to speak as if you're in an actual situation. Let's say you learned how to say I'm going to school. You have to practice how to say it. That way you get comfortable and more natural when you're faced with an actual situation where you need to say something like that. So you have to always constantly practice. So I'm saying it's not enough to just be learning theoretically. You should be able to learn how to confidently use that in a real life situation, basically. And you have to always be consistent. I know you're gonna hear this a lot, but it's important because for languages, if you learn how to say na mul 좋아요 today or 나는 학교에 가요, and you're not consistent with your studying or your practice, by the time you come next month, you'll not be able to make that sentence. I promise you. It has happened so many times where you feel like, oh, you're good, you're going great with your fluency, and you stop studying and it comes crashing down because the things you were able to understand before, you can't understand it anymore. The sentences or the responses or whatever you were able to do before almost effortlessly, now you're struggling to read, now you're struggling to pronounce. Like oh, it's taking you longer to pronounce something. That is what happens when you're not consistently studying and practicing. And you have to what? Always verbally practice. When you're studying a language, you don't read it in your head. Like, let's say you're studying something, you cannot be reading it in your head. You have to read it out loud. That's why when I'm studying, it feels like I'm a deaf person, someone close to me is like, you're there, why are you shouting to yourself? Because no, I have to hear it audibly. So some people think they're pronouncing it good because they're pronouncing it in their head, but when they actually open their mouth to pronounce it, it sounds definitely not as good as you picture it in your head. So if you're learning a language, please always be audible to yourself. That way you can hear yourself. And by watching native speakers, you can always compare and contrast tone of your voice, the accent of your voice, the way you're speaking the language, the feel of the language coming from you as compared to the native speakers that you're listening to. So always listen to native speakers, always watch native speakers, because like I like to tell my students, it's not just the language you're learning the mannerism, you're learning the body movements, the way they stress the words, the way they pronounce the words, and all of that. And you can only get that from actually watching the native speakers themselves, right? The way, if you're reading a book and the book says Togio, Togio. But when you're watching the native speaker is going, Togio, right? There's a ha at the end, Togio. That is what I mean by mannerisms, tones, accents, etc. And that can only come if you consume content. Another tip is to surround yourself with this language you're learning. Surround yourself with Spanish, surround yourself with Korean, surround yourself with whatever language you're learning. What that means is what you watch should probably like 80% that language. I mean, let's say you're watching a video right now and you just come across the video on your TikTok or your IG, and it shows you how to say makeup in Korean, and though it says hwajang. That's good. So at least now you know that word. It's not necessarily studying, but now you're adding it to your vocabulary. But you're just scrolling other videos that doesn't really have anything, especially when you're on a language journey and you're really trying to see results. It doesn't have anything to do with Korean. It's nice, it's entertaining, but you're watching. How about watching something that before you scroll, it's improve something in your language journey? Now I'm guilty of this because sometimes I mean, come on, but I'm saying it's a good percentage of what you watch should be about your language journey, because I don't know what is in that video, but you're gonna learn something about your language journey. And come on, if you're learning something in every video you swipe, and we both know we all swipe through a whole lot of videos, then you know that you're definitely doing something to aid your language journey. And so I've given tips, I've given some resources and some guides, and this is basically how you should plan your studying. This is basically how you should plan your studying. So if you already know how to read Korean or any language, you already know how to make some sentences, but you don't know how to speak. Any tips to improve native pronunciation? Yes. And you don't know how to speak, then you should definitely start your studying by just doing practice. Drop all those books, go on YouTube and just watch native speakers talk. That is, if you feel like if you can read, you can make some sentences, then just drop the book honestly and just watch native speakers talk. From watching native speakers talk, I'm not talking about movies, because movies are scripted and some of the grammars can be a bit wrong sometimes, or not an everyday usage kind of grammar. But watch native speakers on YouTube, just listen to them talk about whatever, and it will definitely help you. So someone asks, do you think directly in Korean, or do you think directly in Korean or your other foreign languages, or you think your sentences in English and then translate? It depends on the language. Like if I'm trying to speak Korean, whatever I want to say in Korean, of course it comes to me in English. Whatever I want to say, then I think, okay, what is the grammar for Korean language? Okay, now I'm gonna rearrange it to thinking in Korean. And so whatever is gonna come out of my mouth is me making the Korean sentence, obviously, because I've already thought in Korean in my head and immediately translated it and said it out loud. And that's why someone will tell you, when you see someone speaking a foreign language or a language that's not their mother tongue, you gotta give them a minute, because it's not easy for someone to be speaking like how I'm speaking in English right now. It's not easy for someone to be speaking and then immediately have to translate before saying, and they are still going and they are still going. So it's okay if you see someone learning the language and they're like, 나는 어제 학교 갔어요, right? It's okay. Don't try to laugh at them. No, they're just processing and a bit slower than someone who's just talking a lot. 어제 학교에 갔어요, right? So everyone, it's like they're translating. You gotta translate first to whatever language before it comes out. So yeah. So tips on to improve pronunciation is what I said. The best tip is to listen to or watch native speakers. That is the best tip, because they are the ones you gotta sound like, right? So you have to watch them. How do they pronounce certain things? Is it ringing? No, it's not ringing. How they watch certain things, etc. How they pronounce certain. So, what are the fastest and longest time you acquired the language to the intermediate level? Um, Fastest and longest. I mean, like I said, I'm still studying all these languages right now, but I would say some things that I know now. Like, I mean, I literally graduate a student from beginners class to intermediate class in months. So I'm saying, please help with the gate downstairs. Sorry. Saying it just depends on you and how you're studying. Like I said, I'm saying, okay, learn 10 vocabularies, 10 verbs every day. But what if this person wants to be learning 50? What if this person wants to be learning 2? Everyone's language speed is different. Okay, if someone said, oh, we've been learning for 5 years, what if it's something you can learn in 2 months, basically? To get, what if that person was just beating around the bush and still had to come back to the beginning? Because it doesn't matter if you go up there, if your foundation is shaky, you gotta calm down, right? And all of that. Someone asked, what app do you use to communicate with Koreans? So I use Maum app, I use Goodnight app, I use, those are the 2 apps I use. There's Hello Talk as well. So I'm gonna make a separate video on about 10 ways you can meet Koreans online, for those of you interested in the Korean. And for this live, I just wanted to show you how you can just start studying and what you should be doing. Don't worry about so many other things. These are the sequences. These are what I think, my own opinion, I think you should be doing to be able to get straight into the speaking. And thank you all so much for joining my live. And yeah, I mentioned Maum app. I'll see you in another live.